Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I am your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. Did want to take a chance to shout out my last week's episode 151 with Noah Burnt. He is a Spanish teacher as well as a content creator. He's a YouTuber, and he's documenting his experiences in Colombia, basically when he goes down there and spends time with his wife. He documents basically kind of some of the misconceptions about Colombia, what it's actually like, his experience, and kind of like learning the language and the culture, basically. And then also, obviously, his experience teaching now and kind of educating and helping people learn the language of Spanish, which is really cool. You can check that episode out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you'd like to watch your podcast, you can check it out on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection, or at Jared M. Carroll, should pop up right for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. So, for today, episode 152, bringing on Renadi.
How you doing?
Welcome to the podcast, man. Pronounce your first last name for everybody.
Renadi Durosier. That's how you say it.
Perfect. And how I like to start this podcast is talking about who you are and what you do currently, and just a little something.
Gotcha. So, again, my name is Renadi Durosier. I currently am the studio manager at F45 South Shore Boston in Weymouth, Massachusetts.
And that is what specifically?
F45 is functional training, high intensity interval training, personal training in a group setting. So I am a personal trainer, certified and everything like that. So I'm the studio manager there. And honestly, I get to change people's lives every day. I get to leave a positive impact on their lives every single day. And I take so much pride in that.
Yeah, and we'll dive into it. I love anyone who works anything fitness related. It always perfectly correlates to kind of my concept of mental health. And I think if you have a healthy body, a healthy mind follows, and hand in hand, basically. So I think that'll be a great conversation as we lead into that a little bit later in the podcast. What I like to start with, though, is family dynamic. And I always like to kind of explain it to the listeners of why I kind of do this. So I always use this analogy. It's my favorite analogy. And I should probably copyright this or some shit. When you think about creating life stories, basically, I always think of a house. The foundation's the most important piece of the house. And I look at childhood and the family is kind of that foundation. And if we're here to talk about your life story, I think it's always important to at least discuss it a little bit, to try to understand who you are basically and where you come from, and then everything kind of builds on top of that. So basically, whatever you feel comfortable with, I'll let you kind of take the floor with that.
Okay. Family dynamic, very, very complicated. I say complicated, but it's probably for the best. I got my dad, I got my sister on one side. I call her, I say my birth giver, so I don't usually say my birth mom, because she doesn't end up deserving that title. So my mom is basic. I don't even know how to really explain it. So I got a mom, and then I have 3 brothers and 2 stepsisters. So big family dynamic. Very, very confusing, very interesting when I explain it to people. That's why sometimes I don't. But yeah, it's very, very complicated. It's 2 sides kind of separate, but my brothers want to meet my older sister. So I'm the oldest, but also the youngest. So my sister's older than me, but then I'm the oldest of my 3 brothers and 2 stepsisters. So it's very, very interesting dynamic. Yeah, my mom just kind of, I want to say, took me under her wing. Things are just rough between my dad and just living at home, and eventually got to a point where I just was not home anymore. She wanted me to be there, and she accepted me for just who I was. She even told me we had a conversation. It was I was 18 at the time, and she's like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I was 18 now, and she's like, "Oh, if you were a year younger, I would have adopted you." And I was like, "Oh, my chest," So it was one of those little things. But ever since then, it was just one of those things where she introduced me as her son. and that like meant the most to me because I'd known her since I was 15, maybe. And like, yeah, like, it means a lot. And and she hates it, but like every time there's like a holiday or every time I get the chance to say like how appreciative I am of her, um, she's like, oh, like you always give me cards that make me want to cry and everything like that. And so like I always make sure that I show her appreciation because she's what, and remember we talked about the masculine and feminine combining. She is that for me. She is the feminine like side coming to me because I didn't get to have that growing up, and because I always kept everything in, and so she allowed me to like kind of mesh the two together, not have so much hate in my heart, and yeah, I will forever be like grateful for that, 100%. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my family.
Yeah, no, and I think it's great that you were able to have someone eventually that came into your life and to show you that, because I think, especially for like us like young men to be able to have that come into our life and teach us that it's okay to kind of have that the guard down a little bit, to experience these emotions, to try to like understand them, because we're not taught that early on. Like we're really taught, especially in society, it's changed a lot, but like it's still bottle, and like deal with it. Like just deal with it. And I haven't gone on one of these rants in a while with the sense of just like dealing with the emotions and stuff like that. But it's kind of like you've grow up being taught these things, and then like you get thrown into a world of just chaos, and you're just supposed to just figure it out. And to be able to have someone that came into your life, especially at an age where it's pretty crucial, like getting in from like the 15 to like 18, that's really high school. That's where things are changing. Things are moving fast. You're trying to figure out who you are in this like crazy world. And to have that sounds like it definitely had a huge impact. I mean, even just the way you talk about her is like obviously it's huge.
Cheers. So yeah, but I will like attest it too. Like it goes without saying, but I mean, everyone has like, I mean, I guess I'll say it this way. I didn't have my like mother growing up like through my childhood, like early childhood and everything like that. But I gained so many mother figures in my life that it like makes up for it like tenfold. And then having my mom even made it even better. And I'm so grateful for that. And now it's just, I can't keep going on to it because I'll start crying. I really will. Because anytime I think back on like where I was and how like what was going on in my life, like I just like really think about it and I'm like, damn, I could have gone in so many different directions. I could not be here right now. Like I like things were so just insane.
It sounds very tough, and to have that experience. And obviously I always tell like, if you didn't feel comfortable, don't go into it. And that's why like I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability with what you're even just discussing, because like talking about these things is very tough. And like that's why I've kind of taken pride in this podcast and this platform that I've created to create a space where people do feel comfortable to share some stuff, especially personal stuff about family. And because it's always about building the story. Like people like learn through these experiences that we share, especially early on, to have that. And curious to know a little bit about like the relationships with your siblings. Like, is that a great relationship? Is it a good relationship? How does that work? Having the two, kind of being, like you said, the kind of like the median between the two.
So, start with my sister because she's my first sister. So things are, it's tough because I'm going to apologize in advance because I know she's probably going to be upset. Growing up with her was hard because she would be nice, and then there were the times where she would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell Poppy. Like, I'm gonna tell Dad," and then I would be like, "No, like, why? You don't need to. Like, you don't need to say anything." And she'd just hold it over my head all the time. And so, like, there were those times where I'm like, "Damn, like, I'm not a fan of you. I love you, but I don't like you right now." And but then as we got older, we started getting closer, and then by like, I think my sophomore year, going into my junior year, she wasn't in the house anymore. And so I was working, and I would come home, and like my dad would be like upset, like all the time. And then, but she wasn't there, and because she wasn't there, I would always want to reach out to her. So when she first wasn't in the house, I would like reach out to her. We would hang out and stuff like that. And then as time went on, it was, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do this on her part. And so then one day we like made this plan, like, all right, yeah, you're gonna come see me at work because I worked at Stop and Shop in the bake shop, so I wasn't really doing anything.
I worked at Stop and Shop too.
I wasn't doing nothing. So she's like, oh, I'm gonna come see you, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm super excited because I hadn't seen her in months. And then she goes, I'm sorry, Renadi, like I can't be there. Broke down, crying at the bake shop. I did not care. People were like, what's wrong? I'm like, leave me alone. Didn't care. And it hurt, like in that moment, I was like, I don't care anymore. If that's how it's gonna be, then it is what it is, right? And so then years went on, and it was always like, oh, come see me here, and I was like, I don't know if I want to, because I've already been hurt by her not showing up for me. So why should I show up for her? And then it was the other way around, where I was like, oh, maybe I should just let the door down. I'm like, let me come see you. Let me come into your job. And like, because she worked at Bertucci's at the time. And I was like, let me come see you, whatever. She never wanted me to go into her job, just to say hi. And I was like, all right, do you not like me? Like, do you not care that I am hurting because I haven't seen you? And as of now, like we're years past this now. So like now I've like told her how I felt and everything like that. And, you know, she's very apologetic about it and sorry and everything. And we're good. And I think I'm working back to being able to like hang out with her and not have the thought of like, oh, this could happen again. Right? Because she's more stable. I'm a little bit more stable now. So I know that I can see her at any point in time. And now it's just me like, well, outside of work, because I work all the time. Outside of that, I'm able to be like, all right, maybe I should go and see her. Maybe like, I was answering this question. It was like, what's one relationship that you think you should do a better job of attaining? And I was like, the relationship with my sister. And so I saw her last weekend. I was like, nice job, Renadi. So that's one right there. That's my sister. I love her. I love her to death. But yeah, so there's that. Then I got my brother Brian. That man, he's a very indecisive person, but I love him to death. We got matching tattoos. So basically, we met at the tennis courts, and our first interaction was him fighting this other kid. And I egged it on. And literally the next day, I went to him and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we hung out every single day for the rest of that summer and on. And it's been like that ever since. He's my go-to. He's like, we have our own things going on right now, but we know that at any point, like, we are there for each other in a heartbeat. So there's Brian. My sister's Nadine. Didn't say that before, but I call her Nene. Then we got Alex. He always thinks that he can be taller than me. He kept everything in as a kid too. He's 16 now. Too old for his own good. Not a fan. My mom will always be like, they're just growing up, right? I'm like, stop saying it. Stop saying it. I don't need to know that they're growing up. And every time I see him, he gives me this hug. And then he comes onto his tippy toes. He always is like, oh, I'm taller than you. And now he doesn't need to be on his tippy toes anymore. And it's really scary because now he's at same height as me. I'm like, all right, bro. Listen, I told him, I will always say to him, the day you get taller than me, I'm going to beat you up all the time. I'm never going to do it. I'm never really going to do it. But funny enough, when he was 7, he used to punch me in the balls for fun. And
hell of a joke.
And I was like, damn, man. I'm like, you're lucky. You're so lucky. You're 7 years old. And he's like, and I was just like, Mom, I'm going to hit him. She's like, no, you're not. I was like, but I want to. And I told him, I was like, when you're 15 years old, I'm going to fuck you up. And so every year, my little brother would be like, my other brother, Oscar, he'd be like, hey, he's getting to that year. He's getting to that age. He's getting closer and closer to 15. Because every year I would say it. And 15 came. And he's like, please don't do it. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I've egged it on for too long. So I gave him one punch and that was it. And then we got Oscar. Oscar just turned 15 years old. Man, he was like the glue to me growing up. when he was 4, and we'll get into it obviously if we talk about like when we talk about college and stuff like that. But I was supposed to go to school, like to a school, and I went with my mom. She went to go drop me off, and we came back the same day because I didn't have the money to pay for school. This boy lit up like a Christmas tree. He was like, "You're not leaving?" I was like, "Nah, I'm staying here." As I'm crying, biggest smile in the world. Biggest smile. Hugging me, holding on to me. He did not leave I don't think he left my side for the whole weekend. And I would go hang out with somebody. He would hold on to my leg like this. And I try to walk, and he'd just be attached to the hip like that. So I call him my baby boy all the time. So, and then I got Ava and Ella. They're very new to the dynamic of my sibling hood, I guess. Ava is 16 as well. I train her to play soccer and everything like that. Rock star, I tell her all the time. But yeah, so I'm learning that dynamic of having younger sisters. Ella, I think she's 10 now. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, so she's just learning how to be an older brother to younger sisters. So that's very interesting in itself.
Yeah, and it sounds like that your relationship with your siblings means a lot to you, and each one is different, which is cool to hear. Is like you have different relationships, and you're learning how to be a brother to each of them in different ways, because obviously they're different people and different ages and things like that. But I always think it's super important to always ask about sibling relationships, because they are really like a lot of our first friendships. A lot of times, starting out, growing up. And speaking of like kind of like more childhood stuff, like getting into kind of sports, I know we talked a lot about off podcasts about soccer was like this big thing for you. So I'll kind of let you take the floor with that and kind of like move along with the conversation with like soccer and how that's kind of translates even into kind of getting closer to like college and stuff like that. So
okay, so I started playing soccer when I was 15, right? But then the backstory to it all is that my dad played when he was younger, growing up when he was in Haiti. And so when he came here and had me and everything like that, soccer wasn't super prominent. So that wasn't his like go-to to tell me like what to do, like in terms of putting you into a sport and just seeing if you like it. So he didn't do that. I blame him, but then he gives me shit for it. So I get it. Because when I was growing up in between like 10 and 15, I would never even think about touching a ball at all. World Cup would come on, I'd watch it. This is where my love for Spain came from. I would watch the World Cup. It was 2010 World Cup. I'm watching everything like that. I'm super excited watching it. And I'd play a little bit with him, but I would never like go out and play, just play and everything, or at all. And then freshman year of high school came, and it was like, do I want to play? I was like, nah. So I played football, like actual football. It's probably the stupidest decision I've ever made. Like I played and everything like that, but it got to a point. I think the second time I touched the ball, I was running back or whatever. I like, oh my God, I got cracked, absolutely cracked. And then a couple weeks later, I was on the bus. So we had just come back from a game and watching the varsity play on the field. Dude receives the kickoff, gets absolutely lit up. And in that moment, I was like, I'm never playing football after this year ever again. So my only option, not my only option, that's not true. I had other options. I played baseball too. It was soccer. Because growing up, I was playing baseball. And then eventually, I don't know why I thought I could play football. I really don't know. If I really thought about it, I would have made a different decision. But soccer happened, and then I played JV my freshman year. My sophomore year, I played soccer for the first time, made JV, was captain. People on the team were not a fan of that because they were like, this kid just came out of nowhere. He played football last year. Why is this a thing? But it is what it is. I didn't really care. I learned to be a leader in situations like that. And since everyone had so much hate in terms of, not everybody, but certain people had certain hate towards me about being captain, I just led by example. All you can do is, in terms of, if people feel some type of way about you in terms of like you being in a position that they don't think you can be in, just lead by example. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But people saw it and it worked out. And then eventually became varsity captain my senior year. Pretty proud of that, to be honest. And this kid that didn't vibe with me, came in just talking a lot of smack about where he was going to go to college and everything like that. And nobody on the team cared. Not one. And so one day he came to summer practice and I was like, bro, shut up. Nobody cares. And then eventually I got ratted on for saying some stuff to him, and then I lost my captaincy for a day, and I got it back a few weeks later. Yeah, like learning leadership and soccer, my love for the game, like my first day playing JV, at first practice, I was like, oh man, Dad, I'm gonna go to college and play soccer. And he's like, okay. Like, yeah, he's remembering all of the years that I was trash talking soccer. And the first day I played soccer, he's like, I'm going to college to play soccer. First game JV. Oh, I'm gonna be a pro. He's like, okay, whatever. Did not care to listen to me. And by all means, I understand. I get it. But I loved it. I loved playing. I loved being free on the field. I didn't think about anything. It was where literally all of my problems went to die, because I was not thinking about anything. Any sadness, any frustration, anything was just gone. And it made it better because I was playing for my grandmother. Like, my grandmother passed away when I was like 8, in the second grade. So I always dedicated every single game to her. And so it made it easier to play. And sometimes I realized like I lost some of that as I was growing up, but every game I just dedicate to her. And it makes things so much easier. So being on the field allowed me to just be free. I feel that the same way today when I play and everything like that. It just, everything goes away. And so I just dedicated hours and hours and hours to just practicing. Anytime anything was going on at home, I was like, I'm going to the field because I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to spend hours there. One day, I think I spent like 4 hours at the field, and I came home and my dad was like, where were you? I was like, at the field. He's like, that's not true. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to be home. And he was like, okay. He didn't believe me, but like, I was there because that's all I wanted to do. So yeah, that's where soccer came from. To just rolled with it. Went to college, and I just anything to not be home, really. And so I went far away, as far as I could go. I got a scholarship, like a partial scholarship, to go to some school in West Virginia. Never going there ever again. But yeah, that kind of just, I didn't want to be home. I was like, the first opportunity I get, I'm gonna leave. I got to go to West Virginia. I was there for a semester, and I hated it. My senior year of high school, I tore my meniscus, and I was like, damn, what does this mean for soccer? Didn't know, but I was like, I need to get better so that I can go to school and play there. I got to school that summer. It was like preseason going into my freshman year of school. It was a Division II school, so I was like, oh, this is serious. Like the smallest, I'm still recovering. I'm still coming back on the field and everything, and somebody just grazes my knee. I did not play that season at all. It was a wrap. My knee was done. I don't know what was wrong. I would go to PT. I would go to the training's office and everything. I did not play. Didn't play. So I just sat in my own sadness. I gained 25 pounds. I just ate cake all the time. I'm a sucker for cake. I was still, I don't care.
I understand that. I'm a death by chocolate cake kind of guy, especially Greg's. People who know.
You give me carrot cake, you give me red velvet chocolate. I don't care. I'm eating it. So I was just every day, and it was cake every day. So I just could not get away from it. I didn't go into the gym. My roommate at the time, he would be like, come to the gym with me. I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'll go to work or whatever. I was working in the postal office there at the time, and he was just like, okay. And just let me be. And I was like, all right, cool. Then eventually I got a chance to like take a class from home, and I was like, I'm leaving. I'm really leaving, because I was upset. I was sad. I was depressed. Like, I will use the word depressed. I was depressed. Like, There was nothing about that town that I was in that would ever make me happy. And so I left and went home. So then I went home, and then so this is 2013 going into 2014. November, I was home doing my class, and I went to the field one day, and I was like, damn, I miss being on the field. I ran around, and I was fine. I didn't understand it because 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks prior, I was in West Virginia, just not playing, still injured and everything like that. And I was just like, did I just need to come home? Is this what that, is that what that meant? I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna find a school to go to and try to play there. I'd gotten a call from Becker College. I was like, all right, let me go try there. Coach still wanted me. Went first move-in day. That's when I had to come back, take my ass home because I didn't have enough money to pay for school. That's when I went home. Oscar was super happy that I was home. And then I was just on the couch for 2 months. And meanwhile, I'm still trying to figure out soccer and everything like that. I don't know what I'm going to do. So March, April goes by. I've gotten to season 8 of Criminal Minds. My mom is like, you're getting your ass up off the couch and you're going to get a job. And I was like, yes, Mom. Sounds good. Next day I got up, got myself a job and everything like that. And then it was just like, okay, what is missing from all of this, from my life? And I was like, soccer. I was like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's continue playing, workout and everything like that. And then in Bridgewater just came to light. I was like, I guess I'll try. I emailed the coach. He did not get back to me at all. I kept emailing, and eventually he answered back. He's like, all right, it's April at this point. He's like, all right, we're going to give you the summer packet. Actually, it might not even have been April. It was probably May or June. He's like, all right, you can come for preseason. Here's the packet. I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Get the packet. Start doing a little bit of the workouts. Go to this charity tournament for it's called Kicker for Jake, and I'm there playing, balling out, absolutely balling out, and then I'm playing in the semifinal or whatever. 2 dudes go from the front to the back, slide tackle both into me, and I didn't realize that they were drunk at the time. I tore my meniscus on my other leg, so I'm like, damn. It's my brother's birthday, too. This crazy thing. I wasn't supposed to go that day. My mom got pissed at me. She was so mad. She's like, you should be here. And I was like, I know, but I just really wanted to play because I hadn't played in so long. I go home. Mom does not want to hear it. I'm like, Mom, I think I've torn my meniscus. She's like, she was showing no sympathy whatsoever. Talking to my brother. My brother and I almost got into a fight. Brian, almost got into a fight with him. And it was just downhill from there. I was like, I called the coach. I'm like, I know you just sent me the packet, but I just tore my meniscus. And I didn't know what I was like, I'm going to try and come back. I didn't end up playing that year either. So then, now it's sophomore year. I try out. Got cut. I was like, all right, cool. I'll go to Barcelona. I studied abroad. Came back. Tried out the next year. So this is now my June. Now this is my freshman, sophomore year. I try out again. He's like, coach is like, hey, man. And I always give him shit for this, too. I'm like, hey, man. He's like, hey, man. You're the most improved player out here today during this tryout. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? He's like, it just wasn't enough. And I'm like, all right. What am I supposed to do about that? Nothing. I can't do anything about that. Mental's down. Every time I got cut, it was just mental's down. That first year, my freshman year, I was the manager of the team. And then the year after, I was the manager of the team again. And I was just like, bro, I don't know, man. This is a lot. Recording these games is tugging at my soul. One of the years, I don't remember which year it was. It was my freshman or sophomore year, but they won the MASCAC championship. And so he came over to me because I was the team manager. He gave me a medal. And I looked at him and I said, listen, as great as this is that you gave this to me, I'm going to give this back to you because I want to get my own. He's like, are you sure? Just keep it. It's like, all right, but I'm telling you, I want to get my own. So I took it and I put it in my bag. Never wore it, never did anything with it. Like, I just put it in my bag, never touched it. I always kept it there as a reminder that I wanted to have one for myself. So then the second year that I didn't make it, I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to Sevilla then. I'm going to go study abroad again. So I studied abroad. Every time I went abroad, I would play with a team. I would find a team to play with. I would train there and everything like that. And I would just incrementally get better. But that summer, I sprained my ankle because I had gone from Sevilla. Then I knew I had friends when I was in Barcelona. I went over there. I was playing and training. Literally the second day that I was in Barcelona, I sprained my ankle. I was like, bro, this sucks. But I never went to PT. I didn't get it taken care of. So I went back to Bridgewater at my third year. And I got cut because I wasn't in shape. I wasn't able to do it. And I knew that. Every year that I had gotten cut, so freshman, sophomore, junior year, I was like, damn, what is wrong with me? Like, I was just upset all the time. I didn't do anything to progress and be better at all. And I was like, I thought I got better when I went abroad because I was playing with European kids. And then I would come back and it just didn't mesh. Like, my nerves would get in the way. I would be like too scared to make a mistake and everything like that. And nothing would click. I was like, I know I'm a better player than this, but nothing clicked. And so then, finally, like, the fourth time, I decided to try out. Finally, by the grace of God, I made it. And I don't know if it's something if I finally was playing well or whatever. I remember one of the things one of the basketball coaches at Bridgewater, he was like, I was talking to coach. And I told him, I was like, you need someone like Renadi on your team. It's like, you got somebody like Renadi on your team, you'll win a championship. Like, it's really nice of you to say. I was like, you know me, but like, it's very nice. So we go into the season. I finally make the team. I make the team, and everybody is super happy for me because they already know I cut year 1, year 2, year 3, recorded the games for the team and everything like that. Finally make the team, we go into practices and everything like that, but I don't play. I don't play for the first few games. Then we get into like late September. It's against Fitchburg. They're up like, I don't even know. They're up 5-0 at this point. And I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, you can either put me in or you don't put me in. It's up to you. It doesn't matter or whatever. So I'm just chilling on the sideline. I'm waiting. And it's like, oh, Renadi, go in. I'm like, cool. Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I mess up and don't play well. Nah, we're up 5-0. It doesn't matter. So after all of these times of me getting cut, I finally touched the field playing at Bridgewater. And I score a damn hat trick. I scored 3 goals, bang, bang, bang. And I'm just like, wow. And like it's wild because I don't realize it sometimes, but like even the people in the stands, they understood. They knew what was going on. And like my friends were in the stands, and so they understood what I had been through every single year. And so that first goal goes in, and it's like, oh, see, this is the thing. Every time like I was telling you, my coach has a story that he explains to the younger kids when I get there. He goes, what happened? I go, I scored a hat trick. He's like, no. What happened first? And I was like, all right, hit the crossbar. So I get into the game. I get a ball across to me by Zach Ells. I got to say his name because he will always still give me crap about it if I ever see him. And he crossed me the ball. I shoot it. Clanks off the crossbar. I'm like, damn. I'm like, is this how this is going to go? This is going to be my first game for this team, and this is what's going to happen? So then I'm like, all right, shake it off. Like, again, we're up 5-0. There's only so much that can go wrong. It doesn't really matter. And then ball goes, I'm running after it, and I like toe poke it through like the keeper and the player, and it goes in, and I'm just like, oh my God, this just happened. And then we go, it's like 6-0 at this point. They go ahead and they score a goal. And then we go back. There's like a ball gets kicked around or whatever, long ball over. I like run like as fast as I can. I just like shoot it again. And it just goes past the goalie. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what is going on? I'm just like, I'm running around and I'm like, have my hands out, but I'm like, yo, you just scored another goal. And then the third one comes and they score again. And I'm like, all right, I can't get worse. I mean, we're up 7-2. It's all right. Or something like that. So I don't remember exactly the score, but then like I score another one and I'm like, and I just look at the bench because at this point I'm like, this is 3 goals that I scored. And I'm staring at my coach. I'm staring at the sideline and I'm just like, this is amazing. Everyone's like, oh, everyone will still say, they're like, that stare down at coach. And I'm like, this is to say that like I finally have earned my stripes of getting cut all of these years to finally making the team, to finally playing. And this is what I can produce. There you go. And then we ended the season with a championship. And it's like, I don't know how I don't even know how to put it into words. It's so weird for me to explain sometimes because I get chills explaining it. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying it's me, but like for me to be able to tell my coach that I want to win a championship by myself, to then me being able to, he put me in the last minutes of the final. And I got to end the final on the field. I think it was one of the most surreal moments ever. I just broke down crying.
It's crazy to go through that. Like obviously you went through so many injuries to overcome all those, and it's like the perfect kind of like story to like kind of like tell about like overcoming things. Yeah. Like things are not always a straight and narrow path. Yeah. Like obviously there was a lot of things in there where you had to travel, you had to come back, injury, fight through injury, and it wasn't just like a specific nagging injury. It's different injuries that you're like going through, and like getting injuries like that in soccer, especially those lower leg injuries, are very difficult to overcome. So like to overcome, I can imagine the mental struggles to go through that. Like obviously between injuries, getting cut, like being in that depressive state of like not knowing where you want to go with not only like soccer, but like you're getting older each year to think about career, school, like all these different factors are like playing into your life to kind of push you to keep going, and then to finally get there, to get that senior year, to get the hat trick, it all builds on top of each other in a perfect way. Sometimes it's like one of those things where it's like you think like it's almost like a divine like intervention almost, where it's like why does it have to happen this way? And then that moment happens, and I can imagine feeling that hat trick, the excitement. It's like it was worth it. Like it sucked to go through, but to like be there to showcase your skills, to actually like feel like I earned this, I did this, like 100%. Was probably so fucking validating.
100%.
I'm gonna turn the camera on. Sorry for the listeners. It's still recording, but technical difficulties. Hasn't done this in a fucking minute. So, but it's just like it's so weird to see how like stuff like that like translates and like builds upon like one another. Like you never really know like how things are gonna play out, and to be able to kind of like experience that, to feel that, like I can only imagine that was like surreal.
It's like it's so surreal that to this day, like I was bouncing around everywhere just explaining it, but like it makes sense in my head, but to explain it to people is just it's just wild. It's just that's the best I can kind of explain. So just.
I'll just let that record and rock on its way out. But yeah, just sports in general, like teach so many fucking lessons, and like I think it's important for people to kind of like to play them like in general, and like you were lucky enough to be able to play it at like the highest of levels, and like obviously pro, I guess you could say the highest levels, but like even collegiate athletes, like it's very few and far between. Like no matter where you play and how you play, if you play on a college level, most people never get to that level. So to be able to play on that level, to have some success and like thrive in that, and play the sport you love, like you can't beat that. And like even to go through the story that you went through and to go through those things probably made it so much sweeter to get to that point.
So it was amazing. I think back to the day, and I'm just like, damn, man, you did all of this. you went through all of this, like all the pain, all the blood, all the sweat, all the tears, and you somehow managed to make it to the end, you know, you won a champion. You're a champion. Like, that's something that I'll never forget, and I'll be super, like, I'm always going to be proud of that. 100%.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to be proud of too. Like, well earned. I want to take a transition into kind of like now, like your career. Like, obviously, when you think about fitness and stuff like that, like playing a sport is like probably a good transition to kind of see that side to be training to like training for something. Like, is that kind of like how when you were going through school, did you kind of always think about being like a trainer and stuff like that, or did it just kind of like happen as you went through the motions?
Becoming a trainer was one of the last things that I could have thought of. So I went to school. I started with athletic training, switched to exercise science, studied abroad a couple times, and because I studied abroad a couple times, they were like, "Oh, it's gonna take you like a semester longer." And I was like, "Okay, well, if I stay with," and then they were like, "If you stay with exercise science, it's probably gonna take you another year." And I was like, "All right, what do I have to do to leave school?" Because I'm like, I've been here for far too long, and I was already at another school. They were like, "Just change your major, I guess." And I was like, "All right, I'll change it to recreation fitness club administration or whatever, phys ed, basically." And so I always get "Oh, do you want to be a gym teacher?" No, I wanted to be going to recreation, working for a town. That's what I wanted to do. But then soccer still took a part of my life. So I was like, let me find out how it is in Spain. Because I played in Spain and it was fun and everything like that. I was like, let me take it to the next level, see if I can make it to the next level. So I did that for a couple years. I played a little bit of semi-pro, low division in Spain and everything like that. And so that was cool. But injuries, went back again, and this time it was like injuries never escaped me. I got a broken nose, and once I got a broken nose, I was like, it's a wrap. And the way I got a broken nose, I went up for a header in one game. My teammate went for the ball at the same time as me, head-butted me in the nose, and it was a wrap. And I was like, all right, man, it's done. It's done, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do. So I went home. I was like, I need to find a job. I'm like about to turn what? This was 2020. This is 2020. So it was right before COVID. So I got home in December, right before my birthday. And I like break down to my mom. I'm like, yo, I'm about to be like 26 without a job, like broke, not knowing what I'm doing. She's like, you're going to figure it out. Like, not everyone has a plan. Like, sometimes you just have to go through it and figure it out. And I'm like, okay. So I started working at Curry College. I worked at intramurals at Bridgewater. And so I was like, oh, Curry College intramurals? You know, I could do it. I could do that. So I started working there in February. COVID happened. Worked from home. And then eventually I was like, but I still want to work in recreation. So I got a job at Randolph at the Intergenerational Community Center. It's a good job. My boss didn't like me. I didn't like her. It's okay. I got myself fired. That's the reality of it all. I don't hold any hard feelings about it anymore because hindsight is 2020, and now I'm in the position that I'm in now. So I didn't have a job for a few months, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was like, damn. So I would go to the gym. Mentals were at an all-time low. I didn't know what to do. And I'd go to the gym, I'd work out. Eventually, a trainer came up to me. He's like, hey, why don't you work here? And I was like, why? Why would I do that? And he's like, well, I mean, you're here a lot, so you might as well try. And I was like, okay. And I was like, but I'm not certified. And he's like, well, it'll probably pay for your certification. I was like, that's valid. That makes sense. So I was like, I'll think about it. Italo, his name is Italo. Great man. He's the one that really got me into fitness, into thinking about becoming a trainer, because I saw what he did and I was like, people gravitate to him. People love like what his workouts and everything like that. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Got the job, became a trainer at Anytime Fitness. I'd say thank you for that. I'm very grateful for that, because then I got to train people and I got to learn as I went along, becoming a certified personal trainer. And then I got to coach people. And this has all been in the past year and some change. So this is like fairly new. So what are we in 2023? So like 2022, basically April area or February area. I got my certification in April of 2022. And so then I was like, I'm a trainer now. So that's really how getting into fitness really happened. It was kind of like, I would say a fluke, but it's the best fluke that could come, that could happen to me. And then from there is just kind of just connections. I just saw a Snapchat story, and I would reply to it. I was like, "Are y'all hiring?" It was for F45 in Foxborough, and I was like, and she was like, "Her name is Danny." She's like, "Oh no, like you should come work for me at the studio that I'm gonna open up with the owner." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know how this is gonna work, but like it's super informal interview and everything like that. But like whatever works, right?" So got like chatted with her. She let me know what the layout was and everything like that and how things were gonna go. And I was like, "Okay, I'm all for it." So then I ended up leaving the job at Anytime Fitness, started working at F45. But then the problem was the delay. They kept delaying the opening of the studio because it hadn't been opened yet. So it went from I was going to start working there in end of May. So I left my job and I'm just waiting. And then the next month it was like, "Oh, it'll be by like September." Month goes by, month goes by, month goes by, racking up debt because we were talking about debt earlier. I'm screwed. And so then September comes and I'm like, "So are we going to start working?" She's like, "Oh no, it got pushed back to December." I'm like, "Bro, what am I going to do?" So I was like, "I think I should start interviewing for other places." But I just had this belief. I had this belief that things were going to be okay. So I turned down the job offer that I had gotten from a different gym. Don't know why, but I did. So December comes around and we open up the studio. It's her and I opening it up on that first day, working together. And I was just like, wow. F45 is something completely different that I've ever experienced in my whole life. And that's where I am now. And now I'm the studio manager there. Because she's not there anymore. But so now it's me. Like I run the show. And I'm a different person. I'm a different person than I was back then. And I say back then, and I mean like less than a year ago. F45 has changed my life for the better. I care so much about people. Not that I put people first a lot, but like at F45, I put people like in front of me a whole lot. And it's because every day I literally get to change people's lives for the better. I get to put a positive impact on their lives for the better every single day, regardless of even if it's just a smile, even if they're walking through the door and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing today?" Like I just being able to see them smile, it makes my day. And I like to say I'm an introverted extrovert. So at the beginning I'd be so tired. My social battery is drained and everything like that. Like they fill my social battery up now. Like I could have a bad day and I leave it at the door and I go in and I'm just like amped and I'm so happy. And then at the end of it all, I'm like, I was upset. But then I like work today. I coach these members and like, I'm happy now. Like I'm good. And so that's the way that I look at, fitness and training and being able to positively impact people's lives for the better. And it's such a blessing. I'm so grateful for it every single day.
Yeah, I actually, one of my quotes today was from last week's episode was bad day, kind of like summarizing here, but the fact that like bad days are normal, but if you have more good days than bad, that's a good indicator that you're in the right place.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, like when he said it, even on the podcast, I was like, that's like so true. Like it's obviously, and like obviously I was telling you my story in like Georgia, like how it was like every day was a bad day. Yeah. I was like clearly it's not just me. Like this is just not the place.
Right.
And you have to kind of figure out what environment fills you up, as you were saying, like, and like makes you like happy to be alive, happy to be there, happy to help people. And I think for you to be in a position to kind of coach and help people achieve what they want to achieve, and then now be back and again in like a leadership position to kind of be able to manage things and like lead things in the right direction, probably lights you up in a different way to kind of to be back there. It kind of fills that because like for me, sports, like for football was like, that was everything for me. And when I lost that, I struggled for years trying to fill that void. And it wasn't until I created this podcast where I was able to kind of like, this is what can fix what I was going through, to fill that void, to have that consistency. And I could imagine you getting into that position to finally be able to start coaching and then being able to manage, like, this fuels me. This is like filling that cup that I need to be filled without soccer. And obviously you still can play soccer, but like to have something that pushes you forward every day is huge. And I think fitness is like a perfect thing to do that. Yes, so 100%. It sounds like you found the right place to be.
Yeah, 100%. Because I will have those days where I wake up at like 3:30 in the morning. I have like days in a row to like get up and coach. And I'm like, part of me is like, I'll get up and I'm like, man, I want to go to sleep. Then I get into the studio and I'm like, nah, it's like people need me. Or like they might not need me, but they gravitate towards me and they like want to see me, and I want to see them just as much, and I love coaching them, and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. No matter how many days in a row I got to do it. I'll complain about it for a second, but eventually I know by the end of the day, my girlfriend, she'll be like, "How's your day?" And I'm like, "It was pretty all right." So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that's like great mindset to have, and like, I want to ask too a little bit like about just like the coaching aspect, and like how has that been able to help you, like being able to kind of be in that role to teach someone, to show them the right things, to show them like maybe tweaks to what they're doing, like being able to help someone, like how does that like help motivate you as a person to be better each day? Because I always found that like being able to kind of teach someone or coach someone or mentor someone is really rewarding in that sense. And I've interviewed enough people who do fitness and training that they've kind of like reiterated that sentiment. So I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah. So I'm a big giver, right? So I enjoy giving like advice, sometimes even if it's not warranted, but still like I'll give it. So being able to coach and give them what they need basically in terms of like corrections and cueing and coaching and seeing their face light up when they're able to do it. Oh man. Like, if you ever come to a class, which you should, even though it's far away from here, but it's okay. You'll see it. Like, I get so amped up. I get so excited. Like, you'll see me. I'll be like, exactly that. And I'm like, let's go. Like, I'll scream their name out. And they're just like, you can see the smile on their face. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, the fact that they're able to do something and they know that they were able to do it because I've confirmed it now. And I'm like, great job. They're over the moon. And then I'm even way over the moon because I'm so excited for them that they were able to do something that they couldn't do before. Even if it's not even like cueing or anything like that, if it's like pushing them up in weight, right? Like I had a member that she was doing a goblet squat, and I go, you can do like the 39 pounds. So the metrics are very different. So like you'd never see a 39 pound in a regular box gym, but like, you can do the 39. She's like, yeah, but I'm worried about my form. And I'm like, listen, I know you. You've been doing this for a very long time. I understand where your body is at, and I think you can do this. So let's give this a shot. So strength day, wanted to push her. So she grabbed it. She's like, all right, I don't know. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. She drops down for the squat, comes right back up. I was like, exactly. She did it, so we do it in like high intensity interval training. So it's probably like 35 seconds of work. She goes right through that 35 seconds. I'm like, see, I told you. Nice job. Gave her a big high five. I was super amped. And she's just like, wow. I get over the moon over little things like that. And it might not, I don't think of it as little things. I think of it as a huge thing. Might be a small little detail in the day or in the class, because I probably correct tons of people every class, but little moments, being able to separate every single little moment and remembering it during the day, that is what fuels me. That is what makes me super excited to be able to get up and coach every single day and be okay with it and be happy with it and be fulfilled with it completely.
That's so awesome to hear. And that I can imagine too, anyone that works with you, when they see you as excited as they are, that only validates them. And people do want that validation, especially when they're being coached to be pushed into that next direction and be validated that hitting their goals, and obviously their own excitement is going to make them like super pumped, and then seeing your excitement probably just makes them over the moon. So that's always really dope to hear. We are getting towards the back end of the podcast, so I want to start tying things up and wrapping things up. Told you it'd go really fast. So I do have my last question for you, which is tied to passions, but I want to give you the chance. If there's anything that you didn't say that you want to say, you could use this kind of like platform right now to say that. If you don't have anything to say, I'll move to that question though.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll probably go on for a whole tangent and then we'd be passing out.
Okay, that's fine. I just like to always like offer that in case we miss something throughout the podcast. But last question for you. What would your advice be for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
Just do it. I'm just kidding. Really though, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you do it, if you don't do it, if you fail, if you succeed, but what matters is that you at least try. That's the one important thing that I will say, right? Because even for myself, like, did I think I could go pro? Yeah, I did. What am I an idiot for thinking about it? Maybe, but I tried, and that's all that really matters is that you try. Whether you succeed or fail, there is no true failure because you still tried. If you didn't try, that's where you could think about the failure because then you'd have regret. So just try. And if you try, you may succeed, you may stumble, but then you're probably going to try again. And then eventually you'll probably succeed. So that is my advice, is to just try. And who knows? Maybe something good will come out of it.
Perfect. I think that's great advice for anyone to take on, because if I never tried to do a podcast, I wouldn't have a podcast. Like, I didn't know what to do, but I tried. I believed in myself, and I think anyone who believes in themselves fully, you have to be your first believer. You have to be your first supporter, because once you do that, then other people can rally behind, whether it's just maybe at first pure delusion, but like you could still do it. Like it takes that first step. And like you said, it's trying. You never really fail. The only real failure is not trying. So I think that was great advice. But this has been a great podcast. I appreciate you coming out here, sitting down with me, sharing like your life story and getting vulnerable with me. I always appreciate anyone that could sit across from me and do a podcast. So I wanted to say thank you for doing this.
Thank you. I also want to say that I love my dad very much. I know I probably didn't talk the most about him, but very big building block in my life too.
Yeah. Because obviously we got like the hour, so I figured we'd squeeze everything, but that's a important thing to kind of hit on and wrap up too. Obviously you wouldn't get to where you are without someone kind of guiding you and molding you to what you want, and like having that kind of figure to kind of go on stuff. But perfect way to, that was a perfect little caveat to just in case he hears this. But appreciate you once again. We clarify that for you guys. If you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also, we will Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection, or Jared M. Carroll should pop up for you. And again, if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll, at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. Until next time, guys, peace.